get women who are defying the odds to venture into areas where men have dominated for centuries. Gertrude Ohene-Asienim is the executive director for the Wista, which is the Whitestone ship brokers, and also the West Africa School of Shipping. She's a maritime expert and a chartered ship broker, actually. So let's get to hear more about her and why she is in this industry. Thank you, Madam, for joining us. It's good to hear about you. First of all, what do you have to say about the industry that you find yourself in? Is it a correct notion that it's an area for men? What do you have to say about that?
Well, the maritime industry is male-dominated. That's a fact. If somebody once made a joke that they don't have time for women who go on maternity leave on vessels, and although it's a joke, it's something that people hold dear to their hearts when they're employing people into the maritime industry. And so when you go to mostly the operation departments of most companies, you will find no woman at all in the operations department, because they are juggling between ports, getting onto vessels and others. I teach as well at the Regional Maritime University, and it is disheartening to go to the engineering department or the nautical department and find that usually there are just about 2 women in the class or none at all. And so this is a bit worrying. And when you get to the top positions in the maritime space as well, you find less women in the boardroom and other places where women are supposed to be. And so it's very worrying, and that is why we have the organization like WISTA, which is Women International Shipping and Trading Association, that promotes top executives, middle class executives, and we pull along through mentorship our young ones and train them to become what they want to become by defying the odds and take on roles that are challenging.
Right. So let's talk about WISTA then. What's the membership made of, and would you say that it's been growing ever since?
WISTA International will be 50 years old next year. WISTA Ghana was established in 2010, and so we are growing. We cut across. WISTA International is in about 56 countries. It has about 3,800 members and some affiliates. In WISTA Ghana, we have membership cutting across almost all the main agencies: the Ghana Maritime Authority, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, the Shippers Authority, all the other freight forwarding associations, and other allied maritime industries, from the Regional Maritime University, where we have our maritime ladies as well, that we bring them up. So we are nurturing, we're growing, and we are progressing.
In terms of mentorship and trying to support other women to come into the space in which you find yourself, what are some of the challenges for you in that attempt, that campaign that you've been running to try and get more young girls to look up to you and to come into the same space in which you are?
Mostly it's about fear. Most women are afraid and then also it has to do about courses that people. I never got to know about the maritime industry when I was younger until I finished the University of Science and Technology then, UST, Kumasi. And then there was an advert in the newspaper looking for people to do a postgraduate diploma at the Maritime University. Right. And I applied. And that was how I got. You were not even conscious about it? I was not even conscious about it. So that's how I got into the maritime industry. And it's the same for most people. They don't plan to be in shipping because they never hear about shipping. We don't learn about the seas, the oceans, and others in our secondary school books most of the time, apart from those who do a little bit of geography and other things. You hardly hear anything maritime on our secondary school campuses and at the university campuses. So we want to change this perspective by bringing people up young and training them into that space. Also building up the confidence of people. So WISTA International, for instance, has built up what we call the Maritime Speakers Bureau, where wherever you are in the world, you can register on that portal And if somewhere around your area of specialty comes up, you can be called all over the world to speak. We are also teaching ourselves and the young ones coming presentation skills. You will be surprised that maybe a woman wants to be an MP or wants to stand for a position, and they don't even know how to go about it, how to present themselves. Presentation is very important. It includes everything, including what you wear, how you speak, your mannerism, because what we do, I just found out years ago that if you type, for instance, in capital letters to somebody, you are shouting.
Yeah.
So if you haven't been in the international space, some of these things you won't understand, that a gesture you usually make in Ghana could be offensive to somebody else who's outside of your jurisdiction. So we are trying to build up people's capacity in these areas by training them on one. It's always very interesting to work in an international space. I have been blessed by God to be the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers Membership Committee chairperson for the world. And so I get to interact with so many people from different countries. And I learn a lot through cultural diversity, communication skills, and others. So these are the things that we want to teach our members as well as our mentees to be able to be assertive in the areas where they find themselves.
Let's talk about the contemporary issues within the maritime space as we speak. What are some of the unique challenges, especially for those who are applying their trade in this part of the world? What's the unique challenge in our space here?
The maritime industry, as you said, cuts across nations. And so one of the main challenges you'll find, for instance, in areas where we are, will be exchange rate fluctuations. You import something, you have your budget on duty, other things, the things get to the port, and the exchange rate has gone high. So it means that your cost will go up. We also have many importers buying insurance from outside of the country, which is something that Ghana has legislated for, that insurance should be bought locally. Bringing that understanding to the doorstep of why people should take advantage of such a law has also been a challenge, and there's been a lot of sensitization going on and people are buying into this. There's also the space of being competitive in terms of port tariffs, in terms of other fees that our importers and exporters have to go through, and also the bureaucratic tendencies. And you clear something to an European port and you are there and you get your items with little efforts. Although we have these ICOM systems going on, there's still some little challenges in the system which needs to be cleared up. So in effect, things are moving, but there's a lot more to be done in there.
If there's anything to consider policy-wise that will aid the sector, what are some of the immediate ones we could be looking at?
In terms of policy, maybe I should look at my women first.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair to bring that up always. Yes, it's fair.
Certainly. We need to look at inclusive leadership in terms of appointing people to boards. Countries that have consciously done this, like Norway and others, they have a quota that for boards, 40% of the board members should be directed or reserved for women. And it's because when you have a balance in a workplace, things move faster. Let me give you an example. Those who go to the university recently, you realize that all the universities are changing their chairs because they want more space. And so you sit on the chair, and that same chair, the arm is what you write on. Imagine a pregnant woman sitting on that chair, writing an exam. It's not conducive. If you don't have an eye there that will see these things, and it's only women who can see these things. So, and the essence of having a very conducive workspace environment. So work-family life balance is very important. Most offices in Ghana, I must say, are not up to standard. You walk into an office, it's a very big space, but the way the space has been kept, or even the washrooms, I don't know how many offices you go around to, but sometimes you run into an office and even the place of convenience, it's not somewhere that, and women pick a lot of infections and other things in this place. So having a conducive, because we spend most of our time at the workplace. And so the workplace should be a very conducive environment. One flower pot here, something to make it lively for people to work. And also, you know, sometimes when you work and you're a family woman, once in a while maybe your child is sick, but you must be at work. What facilities do we have in our workplaces to be able to put in where if I take, for one reason or another, my child must be at work? Is there any place where the person can sit and have some care for me to be able to work conducively? Or my child closes from school and has to come to work. These are things that we haven't considered very much, but it's getting on in other European countries and others where they've seen that when you're able to add certain facilities to your workplace environment, it gives your employees a sound mind to work, and productivity actually increases. Exactly. So these are things that if there should be policy changes, we should look at that. Also, probably our maternity leave needs to be looked at.
Indeed, it's an area that we can look at. But looking at the unique story of Whitestone Brokers, how are you using that to inspire change in the sector?
So Whitestone Shipbrokers, it's mainly into chartering of vessels, maritime consultancy, and advisory stages. And we have the West Africa School of Shipping, which is a recognized partner of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers. So we run 16 courses in shipping with certification from London. And so we are putting in training programs. So our idea is to let people in the maritime space think maritime and talk maritime. And that includes holistic training programs that we put together to bring up people's capacity in the area in which they work. You know, people do things and they do them over the years without understanding the fundamental principles and legal implications of what they do. So we bring them to the practicality of the knowledge they acquire and how they can apply that in their workspace to build their scope to the point that they do their work with understanding, with professionalism, and with ease. And at the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, we say that our word is our bond. That is something that we lack in Ghana. People say one thing and they do another thing. We want people to mean what they say and do what they say. And so training people to be able to even appreciate their own work ethics. Every company have their work ethics. Every company have their style of doing things. How to even appreciate that and be able to incorporate it into the core values of the company and grow with it so that it becomes your mentality. That is how you meet a young white boy who's about 25 years old and he's speaking to somebody the way he's so assertive. And he's commanding what the area in which he's authority. You'll be amazed. You would think that he's been working for the company for 10, 15 years. Right. But you dig and you realize that he was just an intern who has just been employed. All is because they take the person and they train them. Most Ghanaian companies, it's unfortunate to say, do not want to invest in training. So you organize training programs and you realize that it's only the multinational companies that are bringing people. But that is a perception that needs to change. Yeah,
and we need to talk about that some more because when you talk shipping, the perception, an immediate one that comes off anyone's mind will be, okay, this is an area for the multinationals. And it's not an area that you find more Ghanaians in, more indigenous companies also growing in. Do you see that changing over the years?
Shipping cuts across every organization. Yeah. Even Joy FM. The table you're sitting in came with a ship.
Right.
The chair, everything, 90% of things come by ship.
Right.
And shipping by extension, we can include other modes of transport as well because now we have multimodalism.
Right.
And so things move right from the doorstep of somebody to the desk. So logistics management, project management, planning, it's all part in the shipping chain. And because things are now you have to do from one point to the other.
Right.
And so everybody is involved, and most of the people in the clearing and forwarding sector are mainly Ghanaians, and other Ghanaians also in the ship agency sector. So the shipping sector is wide. From the logistics companies, we have the ship agents, we have the port, the mariners, we have cargo surveyors, we have those doing insurance to cover the goods, we have those doing maritime so it cuts across. Shipping is one area where you can find almost every profession in there. You go on board a vessel, you'll find the big vessels like the rigs that operate on our shore. You find a doctor on board. But the doctor must go through basic survival at sea and acquire those certifications to be able to go on board. You'll find cooks there because you need somebody who is well trained to be able to do cooking for those on board the vessel. You'll find stewards, we call them stewards, but they are mainly cleaners, right, okay, on board the vessel. So shipping cuts across different arena of professions. But you need to understand the shipping language. You need to understand the way the shipping world operates. Even when you're a lawyer and you want to branch into maritime law, you need to learn about the trade to be able to acquire that skill, to be able to legislate in the maritime law area very professionally and efficiently. So training is very important, no matter the sector you're in. So far as you want to venture into the space of the maritime world, then you need that training to be able to build up your capacity.
Okay, but personally, where did you find that inspiration to connect and to, you know, give you that sense of reassurance that, well, this is the area for me, other women can also come in?
I have always been working, I've worked in the oil and gas industry on big projects, seismic acquisition and other areas. And once in a while, people used to invite me. And even in that space, you realize that being at the top, I had been country manager for many multinational companies. And when you go for meetings, people would ask, are you the business development manager? Because for them, it is not a woman's place to be a country manager of an oil and gas company at that level. And people will intentionally send you emails and say, dear Mr. Gertrude, things like that, you know. But the motivation came with, once in a while, people will invite you to come and do capacity building or speak at their events, and you go and they want more. And mostly because you're busy working, it became very difficult to do that. So it became more like a passion, and the quest from people that this is your area. It looks like that's
something you can do.
That's something you can do. And I personally love teaching. So I always tell people that I've worked in so many organizations, but anytime I get to the classroom, I'm in my elements.
And I guess it's because you get to connect much more with people.
Exactly. And a teacher influences a lot more people than people can imagine. You can tell your son something, he won't take it. But if his teacher tells him, he will take it. And I've just realized that teaching at the university, that it doesn't matter whether the person is 60 years old or 20 years old. Insofar as you are their lecturer, there's that kind of connection, that respect, and that kind of, they look up to you. So whatever you say makes a huge impact. So if you have bad teachers in a space, they are influencing people negatively. Insofar as also you have good teachers in a place, they positively. So we need to be careful who is teaching our children or how
we need to be mindful of that.
Exactly.
And we're glad that we have some of you around still teaching our people. But then looking at the year to come, which is next year, obviously your association will be celebrating 50 years. Are there some plans? Are there some roadmaps towards that celebration?
Yes. Westa Ghana would want to celebrate along with Westa International. So there's going to be an international program that will be released. But with Westa Ghana, at the end of this year, we want to start with Westa community engagement, which means what we're trying to do is, if you have something that you have, most of us have shoes, dresses, old laptops, computers, printers we're not using. Bring it and let's donate it to somebody who needs it.
You're giving,
we're giving back to society. So we are going to have that program, and we are going to target the maritime communities around the areas along the sea. And you realize that there's also a lot of filth that goes on. Whatever we do ends up in the sea. And maritime pollution is a very serious thing. When we pollute the environment, it ends up with us. Because we take the fish and we eat. And so when you open your sewage from your house, remember that when the rain washes it, it's going into the sea, and you and I will eat the fish again from your defecation. And so health hazards and all of that. So we're going to also embark on maritime education, on people sensitization, on the oceans and the benefits, how to keep it clean, how to keep our environment clean, and make sure that we all live in a healthy environment. The blue economy is something on the agenda, and so we're going to pursue that and working in close collaboration with our maritime agencies like the Ghana Shippers Authority, the Ghana Maritime Authority, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, the Freight Forwarders Associations, the Ship Owners and Agents Association. These are key on our agenda, how we can all come together and promote the maritime space and build a healthy maritime community.
I see. There's a lot that you're doing. Is there any final word that you want to leave our viewers with, and also maybe share with the young ones who are looking up to you? Then?
I just want to encourage our women and everyone out there who wants to aspire to be, that you can be whatever you want to be when you set up your mind to be. We want to encourage more of our young women to also study the STEM subjects, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, so that they can also get, no matter where you are, wherever you get to at the top, it becomes analytical. Whether you are analyzing a budget, whether you are putting in planning for the next year, it becomes very analytical. So getting into subjects that makes you an analytic, and also everything is changing into the digital space.
Things are
fast
changing.
Exactly you develop yourself in the use of technology is very important, and how to build your entire personality. That's called personal branding. It's also very important to show where you can get to. So I would advise them to be bold and courageous and take on tasks that would build up their careers to where they want to be.
Well, Gertrude, it's just the start of bigger things to come. I'm sure that we'll reconnect again to talk about that celebration next year. But thank you. Grateful that you've been able to spend some time.
Thank you very much for having us. We're very grateful for inviting us.